we've just gutted all the back out here, or we've rolled the carpet up forward. It's actually the first time I've ever taken these covers off, and they're in pristine condition. But now what I'm going to be doing in the back is we're going to be doing a coilover setup. Now there's not going to be some big astronomical frame that's going to be in the back here that's just going to ruin the back for storage, and if we take it camping we won't be able to fit anything in here. But from pulling measurements and working it out, there's just going to be a couple little squares here that are going to come up here and return back into the top wheel well. Alright, we got that mocked up pretty much where I want it to be. Now, I've left the finger gap here of where our backing plate bolts are, and that should give us enough room to get the MIG gun in there and give us a nice bead on the inside. Now, I want to run these coilovers on the outside to keep the roll stiffness. Because everything's going to be so tight keeping the coilover on the outside, I don't want to cut our chassis rail. So it's going to be very limited with room back here, so everything's just getting tacked in, and when we cut our hole and start mocking up our top bracket, that's when we can sort of roughly, we might have to move this out and just have that hard on the stud. I can always cut that stud down a little bit. We're level on our laser line. We can start cutting out the top and just seeing whereabouts our coilover is going to sit. And that pretty much is where our coilover is going to be sitting. It is going to tilt out a bit. It will be out here somewhere a little bit more, but we've still got to cut this out a little bit. But that height is pretty much where we're going to be. So there it is at full droop. Now these are the coilovers out of the front. These are 10-inch coilovers. I can fit 12-inch coilovers, but we've got to see how we go for clearances and whatnot. I definitely have the tail shaft clearance now that I've got the high pinion in the rear. It's all going to come down to the top part of the coilover. This, if I can show you on this one, this nut. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually machine that down, because that's way bigger than the spring is. Like, for example, if I grab this spring, like you can see how much bigger it is. I can lose 10 mil easy there, and 10 mil at the top here. This has to move a lot further down the bottom for this to touch. Now it's not touching yet, but I have a little feeling when you pick that other wheel up and the diff comes across, I think it might come close to hitting. And then obviously you got to allow for, because it's all rubber bushings, for it to move side to side under a heavy hit. I just don't want it to come anywhere near it. So what we'll do now is we'll pick up the other wheel as high as we can go, and just see what everything's going to do. Okay, the jack just ran out of oil at that height, but we had to extend these bump stops by 20 mil, so we're getting near full bump this side, as the other side is at full droop. And that, yeah, see that round locking ring, or the top where the spring locates, is probably about 2 mil off there. So if we lose 10 mil, there's heaps of clearance. So that literally had to move up, what, 9 inches for that to come across 5-6 mil, which is all right, because we'll machine them off and then we got plenty of room. So I'm quite happy with that. Now what we'll do is we'll go up the other way and make sure we got enough clearance everywhere else. But before we do, I just want to make sure we got clearance. If we hold our spring where it's got to sit, whoop, we've got next to no room pretty much. So what we'll probably have to do is, like I said earlier, is move this bracket out as hard as we can, and that should give us enough room. So I've been mucking around with the coil tower location for quite some time now, and I've finally got it in a position where I'm happy. We've got no binding. I thought before I might have to notch the chassis a little bit with some pipe or something, but we've sort of alleviated all that issues. We've got our bump stops all tacked in the location that I want them. Now, I ended up drilling a whole heap of holes in it because the top I wanted access to. I wanted the water and mud to get out. Like, it's still going to get a little bit trapped in the bottom, which is kind of annoying, but I wanted the option of, because these are just generic Vitara bump stops, I wanted the option of, I can just, if I want longer ones or something, I can just buy them off the shelf. And if need be, I can always drill out the hole in the bottom and put a nut on top of, for whatever reason. So after many hours of cycling the suspension, moving brackets and everything, the rear suspension is 98% done. Now, I've just got to do bump pads in the bottom. I've actually got them already made. I've just got to clean them up and weld them in. But once again, the button on the MIG welder's buggered up. So I have got another one of these welders. I'm just going to pinch the button out of that and hopefully it's good. But I think it might be time for an upgrade. This old girl's about 23, 24 years old probably now. So she's getting on retirement age. But besides that, I'm quite happy with how everything's come out. I had a hell of a time packaging everything in this. Like, these are only 10-inch coilovers, and because we're running them on the outside of the chassis rail, and because our wheel wells are so narrow, trying to fit a 12.5-inch tire on this thing it's been a real headache trying to make it all work. Every time I move brackets here, there, something's binding, and so where I've got it all set, I'm pretty happy with it. I went ahead and put these plates in that tag onto the cross tube that mounts the tank. That cross tube is about 3-point-something mil thick, so it's all braced up nice and strong. I'm yet to make the inner tubs inside. I also wanted to keep this protective plate here that stops anything from hitting the filler neck tubes, and so that's why that sort of all looks a little bit funny. But I've actually got to cut the spot welds on that and pull that off because the tyre hits that. But on the inside, you can sort of get a better look at where those plates sit. Even if you get down here, they sort of tag in there. And I actually made them pretty heavy duty. They're 6mm wall section, way overkill for this, but it's sort of the only thing I could tag these onto. If I want, I've got enough room under the car to put a tube from one side to the other. So on top of the tank there, I'd be able to squeeze it in and then put a couple bends up. But I think that's going to be plenty strong enough. Like, the back of this thing doesn't weigh anything. That's going to do it for this video. Got heaps of work done. Super happy with how it's all come out, and thanks for watching.